Hello, everybody, and welcome to PT Educator's Professors of Profit Vlogcast. I am Dr. F Scott Feil, and I'm here today with a very special friend who has been on one of my other podcasts, the HET podcast, Dr. Becky Burrows Bliss. Becky, if you wouldn't mind, tell us a little bit about what you're doing currently and how you're kind of juggling both teaching as a core faculty member and a little bit with the adjunct as well.
Sure. So I am a clinical teaching assistant professor here at the University of Missouri. So that's my full-time job. My area of expertise is neuro rehab. I teach clinical procedures and evaluation. I teach clinical pathophysiology. I teach neuro rehab. I teach neuro rehab across implications across the lifespan. So lots of neuro here at University of Missouri. But then I also do adjunct teaching at, and I'm not sure what's been on my webcam, I'm going to try to get it to stay. I do adjunct teaching at Bellin College for the Doctorate of Science program there, and I teach one course a year for them, instructional design and delivery, and that's usually a 6-week course, May through June.
Awesome. Just out of curiosity, is that a situation where you kind of have to talk to both schools and get it okayed, or how does that work?
So yes, it is. You have to. So for us, we have an assurance office here at the University of Missouri. And so when you log in, even just to log in to get all your IRB, all your previous IRB approvals, make sure all of your criteria, your training's up to date, you have to claim any other additional jobs that you have. So from there, I had to list what it was, and then they looked to see for conflicts of interest. Then I had to sign a waiver of conflict of interest in the fact that what I was producing here is not being reproduced at a different institution, if that makes any sense whatsoever.
Sure.
Yeah, and then of course, before starting, having a conversation with my chair to make sure that all of that was going to be kosher, and things like that. So keeping him involved and informed.
Yeah, I could see them, not wanting you to double dip and use like the same course, but at the same time, not really, because think about it. If you teach a really good pathophys course, that should be shared out amongst many universities, let alone one. And I think we're running into a little bit of that now with some of the online programs that are going on. I think sharing is caring seems to be a little more the theme, so to speak. But we'll see. We'll see what happens.
There's actually a company, and I think the name is Rehab Essentials, and they actually do that. You can go ahead and say, like, you need a pharmacology.
Right. You license out the course.
Yeah, you license out the course, and then you can have that. So I do think with everything going on and different clinical expertise that might be part of the future. Yeah. I just know historically, because I was at an institution previous to that, that was the biggest thing with them is I couldn't co-produce at multiple institutions because they saw what I was doing here to even include my lectures as their intellectual property because I worked for them instead of mine.
Right, which is crazy, but the moral of the story, have those conversations with your director and the university and figure it out, hash it out beforehand.
Correct.
What are some of the pros and cons that you would say for academicians who currently are looking to do what you do, maybe teaching core faculty and then also adjunct?
Yeah. The pros are, and I always said, why did I go into teaching after 15 years of clinical practice? But the pro is I felt as a clinical educator, I was having one student at a time, making that difference, which was so important. But then being in front of 60, which is what I have now, I feel like I can do better. I can have better outcomes, do better good because I'm changing multiple people's perspectives from a neuro rehab perspective or whatever I'm happen to be teaching. So pros are that. Pro is flexible schedule. I think I work more hours as faculty than I did in the clinic. It's not a 8 to 5 job every day, but I have flexibility in that I have 3 kids, 11 through 14. One of them's got a middle of the day, assembly or a meeting or something. I can, if I'm not in the classroom, I can say, okay, you know what, I can go run and do that, and then I'll work a little bit later in the evening if I have to do grading or course prep or lecture prep or whatever it happens to be. So flexibility is key, but I was just having this conversation with my colleague yesterday. Our job just continues to evolve. Like it never slows down as far as faculty goes. Adjunct's great because you don't get immersed in maybe some of the politics of the interactions of the core faculty. You can come in, do your thing, interact as much or as little as, they seem, whatever the culture is at that institution, and then, kind of step away. So, which is kind of nice. And then my area for adjuncting is something completely different than what I'm teaching in entry-level DPT education.
Yeah.
So for me, it's a lifelong learning approach that, okay, I'm constantly revamping and looking at literature on instructional design and delivery, which is ultimately leading back to making me a better instructor where I am here at Mizzou.
Sure. That's awesome. So, any cons?
Cons is, it's a double-edged sword. Con is you aren't part of the core faculty. So sometimes you don't know what's going on. What are the politics behind things? You know, how are things structured? Those types of things. So depending on the institution that you may adjunct on, I've seen it across the gamut where they let adjuncts come to all faculty meetings and they're part of the team. And then I've had others where no, it's just core faculty. You know, it's a need to know basis type of thing. Sure. So I think that's one thing to look for as far as that goes. The other thing is just juggling time, because in the spring I've got a 16-week course at Mizzou that I teach. And then it's just as I'm like getting ready to end that, my online one is going to start, but I've got to do course prep from that. So making sure time management skills are really, really good. I will say my first year of teaching was a train wreck in course prep.
Good to know. I was right there with you.
And evenings of course prep and what do I need to put in here and things like that. Just, I mean, we're clinicians and we don't know about the science of teaching and learning unless we explore it, like you and I both did with our degrees. Mm-hmm. But so it's a lot more time intensive the first time you do it. After you do it the first 1 to 2 times, you can get into a groove. I find that it takes 2 good years of teaching a course before I really like what I can do and then just make some tweaks, which make it easy. Yeah. But your first couple of years in academics, be ready for the long haul.
Yep. Well, and I think, you know, the extra money's not too bad too, right? I mean, that's kind of the whole reason I started this podcast, was to show people you can find little bits of extra money here and there, you know, if you look for the opportunities. And we all know how student loans work and how terrible those are. So the quicker we can get them off our shoulders, the better, you know?
Yeah. And for me, like my student loan for my DPT was not, you know, gone, but it was the loan for the terminal academic degree that I had to go back and get, that thankfully, like I was lucky enough that my dad gave me the loan and I'm paying him back with interest. So it's like a bank, but that my extra side gig of adjunct is a nice little extra amount of dough to be able to do that with him. Sure. As well. So yeah, no, that's a big perk of it. And it's, you know, it's not in what you're normally planning for. So you can set it aside and earmark it.
For sure. What's one tip that you would give to somebody just starting out who's looking to maybe do core faculty and adjunct? What's a tip you would give?
I think the biggest tip is relationship building. Always think about every opportunity, every conversation that you have. CSM's coming up. You know, seek out a mentor and relationship build. If you're interested in that, think about it early. Put people around you that can either assist or pull you in and say, hey, how do you know that you may or may not like, you know, teaching? Come hang out in a lab with me. So look for somebody who's willing to do that and mold and groom the next generation of educators out there. Because I think we already know, we've discussed it before, is that the, you know, the retirement age and the baby boomers and those of who are, you know, our current profiles are, we're getting ready to have a complete new generation coming in. Yep. And we need to mentor those who are coming behind us. So really seek to relationship build, talk to people that are already doing it or have done it, and think about it from that perspective.
Awesome. Yeah, I love that. I love that tip. Mm-hmm. Well, Becky, thank you so much for taking the time to come on and just chat with us today. Where can people find you and reach out to you if they have follow-up questions or they just want to talk about teaching in general?
Oh, absolutely. So you can reach me at my Mizzou email is probably my easiest. It's really simple. Rebecca.bliss@health.missouri.edu, or you can find me on Twitter. Very active on Twitter, more so from the post-concussive vestibular rehab, neuro rehab side of things, but it's great. I can't tell you the number of people that, you know, have cold DM'd me on Twitter that we now have these relationships, which is great. So either one is absolutely fine.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for taking the time. I always love talking with you. And yeah, can't wait to see what you're up to over the next year or two. Should be fun.
All right. Thanks.